So I'm still getting Ralph set up. Ralph Quebec, he's come all the way from Chicago, Illinois. Chicago, am I right? Yep.
Good. I think.
All good to go. Ralph, welcome on stage.
Thank you. Appreciate being here. More importantly, Sharon and Bernard for putting this together for us. I'm Ralph Quebec with eWorkplace Apps. We've had a long storied career with Acumatica. There's a number of very good Acumatica ISVs here. John talked about the importance of ISVs within the network to build things. Our journey with Acumatica is a little different. Most of our team spent about 30 years focused on developing quality management solutions, as well as solutions for process manufacturing. And back in 4, 5, 6 years ago, they looked to the cloud and said, we should really be up there. At the same time, we knew some individuals at Acumatica that said Acumatica had to do two things. They needed to improve their quality management system, and they wanted to move into process manufacturing, which we'll define in a little bit. So, as you can see on the slide, at the 2020 Acumatica in Vegas, it was announced that we were going to collaborate, our team and Acumatica's team, to do two things. Improve the quality management system within Acumatica and bring a formula management into the system. Our goal was really two things. Our goal was to work and collaborate with the Acumatica developers so that you didn't know what we designed and they developed, what we designed and we wrote. The second thing was to design in a way that everything in this audience that works with Acumatica, ISVs, MRP, shop floor kiosks should just work. And it shouldn't be the partners or responsibility of anyone else to worry about that. And I think we've done a pretty good job. We're fairly highly rewarded within Acumatica. By the way, I'm up here my own. Some of our support team that supports South Africa's in India, they didn't really want to fly through an area where rockets were going past their planes, so that's their pictures. They'll probably be here next year. We think we've reached our goals. This is always an evolution, but during 2026, the goal of the Acumatica is that 20% of their manufacturing edition sales are really going to be what we are talking about today, related to process manufacturing. And right now, about 35 to 40% of Acumatica manufacturing users deploy our QMS solution to meet their needs. First of all, I'm going to talk about process manufacturing. By the way, my goal is to talk for about 10 minutes and then demo for about 10 minutes. That'll be the longest 15 seconds of my life. I need to walk there, and I need to make certain the screen works. So for anyone that does those, it's the hardest thing. Why did this all start with Acumatica? There's differences between process and discrete. I'm not going to read all those components. You'll get the slides. But in process, you blend something, and it's done. You can't undo it, right? You don't take your orange juice and make it up into different things. You need to scale formulas, right? You need to work things up and down. We deal with liquids and solids and units and volume units of measure, weight units of measure, pieces and parts and discrete. We need to deal with the physical character properties of an item. When you're making a foodstuff, you have two things to worry about. What raw materials did I use? And did those raw materials meet the requirements of my labeling? Or if you're in paints and coatings, you also need to know what's it made up of. Is it flammable, SDS sheets, and all those things. So we had to bring all that into the Acumatica universe. These are the industries that Acumatica now for the last 2 years has been effectively selling into. Are there people in this audience? Are there Acumatica users that were in these audiences before? The answer is yes. Right? People traditionally have been able to make discrete manufacturing systems work for process, but now Acumatica has a tool that focus those industries. Again, I'm not going to read this slide entirely. I'm going to make a couple comments, then we're actually going to look at the product. We support both weight and volume units of measure. We support intermediates, right? You make that orange juice, you might stock it for a while, and then you're going to fill it. We'll talk about yield and loss calculations. We need to worry about sizing. Batches with runs. Process manufacturers are a little different. I want to make 10,000 gallons of something. I can only make it 500 gallons at a time, right? Because that's my vessel. So the ERP system has to know while I want to make, I'm dyslexic, so I'll probably get my numbers wrong. I need to make 5,000, but I really need to make it 10 times. So suddenly the inventory control process, all the quality testing is different. We'll talk about physical character properties, right? If you're in food, you need to know allergens, how all that mixed together. We embedded quality control, there's traceability and mock recall capability, and we have some verticals for dairy as well as bakery, right? Bakery, when you get into formulation, they formulate based upon baker's percent. There's really no formula. They choose how much flour in many cases, and then they formulate from there. And we support SDS forms. You'll read that slide when you get it, because you can't read it now. I'm not going to talk about what happens in typical process manufacturing. They'll blend some orange juice, they'll blend some paint, then eventually they might put it into different pack sizes, different volumes, and then eventually they might take those and put it into cases, etc. I'm going to do the product demonstration all at once so I don't have to flip back and forth. We think the Acumatica solution is continuing to evolve, but people can now do a better job improving inventory, formula management, lot traceability, etc. Somebody had a comment about us being number 10 in terms of features. I wouldn't rate us as 10. Some people talk about our history. We're not allowed to talk about it, but if you go back to the first slide, it actually displays who we once were. That's a number of process manufacturers that are using our product. Important for both products, this relates to the future. Acumatica does not do a great job today supporting co-products. What's a co-product? I take a piece of meat, it comes in, I break it up into 3 or 4 different parts. One of the parts I need to allocate 10% of my cost, another one 20, another one 30, etc. We're deploying that now as an early adopter piece within process manufacturing because of our relationship with Acumatica. By the end of the year, it's going to be in the discrete manufacturing product. Quality management, I'm going to shift gears. This is the first product we released, but it really wasn't driving the relationship. This is more defensive. When we talked to Bernard, it's more defensive. Acumatica needs this to compete. Process opens up new doors. Why quality management? Quality management really deals with a number of different functions, internal needs. It needs to be integrated throughout your whole system. There's customer requirements. There's industrial requirements. Those internal needs, you need to evaluate resorts, quarantine product, have a formal non-conformance corrective action process. You need to evaluate your vendors. Internal quality needs, there has to be one source of the truth. It has to be simple to use. And then you have internal quality needs, lot traceability. We're going to talk about electronic batch records when we do our presentation. Non-conformance corrective action. Now, quality management is not the silver bullet to get Acumatica sold. For all these industries, the alphabet soup of regulations, do we provide Acumatica functionality to help customers meet those? The answer is yes, but we're not the solution. Document management, that was talked about. We don't do anything with document management. So if someone's going to call us and say, Ralph, we need a quality demonstration, usually early in that process, someone raises their hands about what does Acumatica do to control documents? That's not us. Security, control. So we're not the silver bullet, but there's a lot of gaps that we fill in with Acumatica about that. It's really built upon 6 pillars. We want to make certain a product meets its specification when it's received, while it's being made, after it's being made, after it's being shipped. For chemical places, it's actually afterwards. We support samples and stability testing. So some of our people in chemicals, they take a little bottle, they put it on the shelf. 6 months later, they have to be told it's 6 months old. And then there's a set of tests that they need to run, sometimes for government institutions, to say it still meets a qualification. We want to document standard operating procedures. Did the guy clean the machine? Did he do what he needed to do to make the job? We do have a tooling and calibration module that's going to let you know when you should do those things, and then did the person do it. We support non-conformance corrective action. We have a process to document what we call certificates, so you won't buy something from a vendor who hasn't provided you the right documents. And then finally, we do some vendor performance. This is just a flow we'll go through. This is what a typical receiving flow is, and how we interrupt that. We support kit assembly. We support shipping, so we can prevent a shipping from coming out through, and then that's what we do within process. So now this is the hardest part of my day, is moving over here and seeing, will the screen work? It does, that's good. It's almost the right size. So I want to start out with, I'm just going to go through, this isn't meant to be a demo. It's just meant to talk about some of the features within Acumatica now. And hopefully you see this is the same. I need my mouse to work. So I'm first of all going to just create a new one. Well, I'm not going to create a new one. I'm just going to start. So the first major uplift we had to do for Acumatica was, how do I formulate? Think of Acumatica, discrete units. But there's some people that formulate based upon weight and volume. Some people cheat because suddenly that discrete is 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. They pretend that's a percent. So now we allow you to build product based upon a percent or volume. Now I'm going to go into a formula. I've talked about weight and volume. So when we call up a formula, as soon as we get there, you can see on the screen, as soon as it's get there, their weight and volume. Important to many process manufacturers. Number one, they have both liquids and solids. And in some cases, their KPIs at the end of the year is how much did I sell in gallons? Sorry, I'm from the United States. Gallons and pounds. It also affects operations. We were on a presentation once, and one of our pre-sales people called it up, and we had the consultant who was helping the client, and one of their operation people say, don't talk about weight and volume anymore. It doesn't matter. We told you during discovery, we do everything in volume. Someone in the back of the room raised their hand and said, could you please explain more about how you do that? Why? Well, think of them mixing things. It's a 500-gallon tank. Everything doesn't weigh the same. So he had a complete system outside of his ERP system that he had to track how much something weighed. It was to the point in one case he had one because they had an elevator. So they had to weigh the commodity to make certain it could go up the elevator. That was now an external system. We now brought it into Acumatica. So in some cases it's important, it's not. For those people who know Acumatica, this is just the typical routing. What we did do is, this is in both versions of Acumatica, both discrete. We allow you at each operation step to define tests that you're going to do. These are the tests that are going to allow you to validate that the product meets its specification. They could be numeric, they could be colors, they could be anything that you wish. The other part of quality, there's two things we need to worry about. Did the product meet its specification? The second part is, did people do the right thing? So we have this item called boilerplate that, again, you could tie within Acumatica any place you wish. And if that does come up, it's going to be the list of things that I need to do. I need to check that I had the right material. Did I check that I have the right temperature of the vessel? So now embedded into Acumatica are two things, and you'll see how we can now create a digital batch ticket. The next thing I'm going to focus on, because it was in that PowerPoint, and again, it relates to some sales, is the idea of losses. Particularly in food and chemical, they have formulas that need to meet labeling requirements, or something. Well, that's what a bill of materials is, that's what a formula is. However, from an operation end, that's not how you cost, and it might not be how you plan. Why? Because there might be losses at the line level. There might be a chemical that's going to evaporate. It might be a powder that you're going to dump in. So there's more that you should cost, at least when you're doing your standards, than what's actually in the actual formula itself. There's losses. You know, you're going to lose some stuff, so you might plan for more. And then, mainly in liquids, it's going to be solids, we have this constant loss factor. There's 500 gallons of that material in a line. Whether you make 1,000,000 gallons, 5,000 gallons, whatever, you're going to lose that 500 gallons. So the goal that we had with Acumatica was to build within their infrastructure the ability to account for those. So now when you begin to look at cost, this cost here, number one, it's by weight and volume, but more importantly now includes all those other losses. MRP now says, don't give me the 1 pound that I need, really give me 5 pounds, because that's what I really need, how it's going to lose. So those are the things that we have done in process manufacturing. The other key element, and I'm going to go back into this item of product physical analysis, is that this idea that process manufacturers need to be, hopefully that came up, need to be concerned about two things. So, with the structure of the system, and this is not easy to see, within the Acumatica now the data is there for food, could be chemicals because based upon calculations you're going to know something's flammable or not. Acumatica is going to tell us this is what needs to be on my SDS form, this is on my label, and then over on the other side you begin to see what items that I make, I shouldn't say make, what raw materials do I use, and what raw materials contribute to each of those factors. It's not a product development tool, but it would allow me to go back and say I need to change the calories on this, and it would reformulate for me. The linkage in Acumatica, and I probably shouldn't have clicked where I did, is a bill of material. So just the transition that we make is we have this bill of material. I make that orange juice, I make that chemical, whatever I have, and then what do I do with it? Well, I can make it into a number of finished goods, a number of pack-outs that some of the partners here talk about. So we link those things together. Anyone who knows our history, this fill level is the transition that says how much of this chemical I make needs to go in this finished good. The importance of that now is that you control the formula, the orange juice, in one place. They can continue to deal with that all the time. You could have 300 products that use that orange juice. You might have some products that are a combination of orange juice and lemonade that use this formula. You can now control the formula in one place. You make changes to that formula. There's controls, etc. But whenever someone's done with this formula, they press a button, and now all these other products know they're going to use that new formula. Versus in some non-process solutions, you end up having to go through gyrations to do that, as well as they don't understand fill. There's some companies that make to pounds, then they fill in ounces. So again, that's that conversion that we try to do. This electronic batch ticket, which is important in certain industries, and again, I'm not going to produce one, but I'm going to go into a batch ticket, which we happen to call a batch record. I'm going to go into 278. This would normally be a dashboard, so I'm the kind of the guy in the basement that doesn't necessarily deal with dashboards and how to find things. But the focus is, there's a problem right now in this item. We would do traceability to get back to the lot number, and someone's really interested in, did we actually make this product the right way? So now someone could go in, and they could look and find that test that we just did. Then those operating instructions that were there, I could drag over, and I'll find it when I get there. That's that batch record. So there's an interface that goes on, but now what I know as soon as that gets pulled up is who made certain the machine was clean. It's not there, but what was the temperature of that item? And now I have that in history. The same way those tests that made the product. It's all connected with that. And now out of Acumatica number one, everything is digitally connected. And now we're working to format that into, electronic batch records. There was one entity that bought Acumatica that used to spend about 2 days finding all the different receipts that they had, all the different QC to put in the stack, and they had to hold their billing until that got all done. And now it's all in Acumatica digitally connected. I'm going to try to do one thing. I know I'm running out of time. But in many cases, receipts is where it all starts. And I don't think I'm going to do that because I just closed the screen. But we have a process within Acumatica that I would go in, do a receipt, we stop that receipt, and we do something that we call an inspection. Think of that being standard operating procedures, because many of our clients have truck inspections. The orange juice truck just pulled up. I don't even want to unload that until someone checks the temperature. Was it clean? And I don't know, something else that they want to check. They document that on a record digitally within Acumatica. They could then dump those oranges into a container. It is now quarantined, so you can't sell it, use it, move it, etc. We automatically generate one of those QC orders that you had. Now you do the tests, are the oranges good or not? Do you approve those, and then you can move those into inventory. So, I used to officiate American football at a variety of levels. The clock was important to us. I think I just ran out of my time, but we appreciate the time being here, and hopefully you'll see how Acumatica and our team have collaborated to fill a gap as it relates to quality management, and then for partners and for customers that deal with true process manufacturing, Acumatica has a solution. So thank you.